So this is the kind of video on the kind of subject that creators just never want to have to make because it is a really tough subject. COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, will take effect, or full effect for YouTube creators on January the 1st, 2020, and it's the biggest challenge many of us content creators have ever faced on the platform. This is a change that, as it stands, could destroy channels like ours and ones much bigger and more influential, and it's scary and ridiculously stressful. Today I will go over all the big details about COPPA and exactly what it could mean for channels like ours. But if you don't take anything else from this video, please just remember that the FTC are still listening to comments on this subject until December the 9th, and there are petitions to sign if you disagree with what they are doing. I will leave all relevant links in the description. So how did we get to where we are today with COPPA, and what could it mean for us creators? So COPPA is not new, the legislation is not new, but YouTube was deemed not to have been abiding by it for a long time. We're talking years. Basically, YouTube has been collecting private information on children in the eyes of the legislation anyone under 13 and targeting them with personalised ads, a clear breach of COPPA. Consequently, back in September, YouTube reached a settlement with the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission, which resulted in an agreement where the platform was fined $170 million. However, that's not where the settlement ended, because as part of the settlement, YouTube now has to ensure that content on its platform complies with COPPA, and as a result, us content creators now have to declare whether each video is made for kids, which, although doesn't sound so dangerous in principle, is incredibly dangerous in application. If you declare that your content is made for kids, or YouTube deem your content as made for kids, you lose a lot. As a couple of examples, you lose every aspect of audience interaction, including notifications, the comment sections on videos, and the ability to have likes and dislikes. In addition to this, you lose pretty much every way in which your video can be shared. It cannot be shared online, and it certainly cannot be recommended to others and appearing in people's recommended boxes. Essentially, if you declare your video as made for kids, you will experience a complete paralysis of the means of interacting with viewers and growing your channel. Additionally, for us, maintaining and improving the channel becomes essentially impossible, as declaring the content as made for kids removes targeted ads across all age groups, and therefore our already small revenue would fall by up to around 90% or even more. In the bigger picture, for some channels which are clearly aimed at kids, the above points are unavoidable and will certainly cause more harm than good, as talented and enthusiastic creators who make kids content either leave the platform or move towards content with a greater focus on adult themes, as content aimed at kids is basically no longer viable on YouTube to most people. In regards to our channel, in principle, this shouldn't be too big of an issue for us. YouTube's advice is that we know our content and audience best, and we know if it's made for kids. Now, our content is not made for kids, and in many ways, I'm sure that analytical themes and language would be dissuasive to children, and our age demographics on our channel proves that. Our consciences are clear. However, as I said at the start of the video, this is pretty much an impending crisis. The problems arise in the vagueness of the criteria of what defines content made for kids, and the severe, disproportionate penalties that will come our way for getting these things wrong are just not worth the risk. If we are deemed to have got this wrong, the fine could be over $40,000 per video, which for us is a life-ruining sum. So where does this vagueness arise in the criteria? So, the criteria for judging whether your content and what other people will judge for is your content made for kids are these things. So, does your content include children or children's characters? For the most part, we don't feel it does. Although Mario and Crash, children could like those characters, an awful lot of adults like those characters too, and overall we don't believe that they are children's characters. Now it's very similar for the following point. Popular children's programming or animated characters, again the same. Children could like, and often do like, characters such as Mario, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, etc, etc. But these characters, I would not say, are just children's characters. Now the following points are pretty clear. Do we have play acting or stories using children's toys? No. Child protagonists engaging in common natural play patterns such as play acting and or imaginative play? No. Popular children's songs, stories or poems? No. Now looking at that criteria overall, although there is some vagueness obviously with Crash and Mario characters, and looking at our demographics for our channel, we can safely say that we feel like that we are not creating content aimed at kids. Our concern comes in the form of what if Mario, Crash and Spyro are all deemed children's characters specifically, and therefore despite the language we use in the video, which is for me not aimed at children, and despite our demographics which prove that our content is not so appealing to children, what if we are deemed in breach of this? Now YouTube keeps telling us we know our content and audience best, but we could find ourselves in a devastating situation, including, and I must stress that this is a real possibility, a ridiculously large fine and possibly other measures took against us. I know some people out there may think all this noise from YouTubers is possibly an overreaction, but when you consider that the FTC themselves in a press conference used an unnecessarily aggressive analogy of shooting fish in a barrel, with YouTube as the barrel and us creators as the fish, this has to be interpreted with the most serious degree possible. For a piece of children's legislation, it seems remarkably like an attack on innocent, law-abiding individuals who have no desire to gather or exploit the personal data of children to sell to advertisers. Essentially then, and this applies to so many more hardworking, respectable creators other than ourselves, we currently have a choice whether to play it safe and let our channels essentially die, and that is what will happen, meaning no coverage of games like Crash, Spyro and Nintendo, even though we know our content is categorically not made for kids, or we risk serious consequences if an FTC officer disagrees with our judgment and deems the content made for kids. Let's remember too, FTC officers won't necessarily understand the platform and content, and there's nothing to say they won't make a misinformed decision. Just think about how we got to this position with COPPA, and think about things like the Article 13 legislation. How many misinformed decisions have been made so far? Now, as a channel that has grown so much in the last 12 months, we feel that we owe it to you to say just how we feel about the issue and where we currently stand for it right now and what it could mean for the future. Now, I love being a creator on this platform. For me, for so many years, it's provided me with hope, the idea of opportunity, and a desire to improve not just myself as a creator, but myself as a person and my skills. Honestly, the amount of time and emotion myself in particular, and others on the channel have invested into this thing is absolutely crazy. However, even if there's just a 1% chance that we could get hit with a $40,000 plus fine, and that's for each video, something which will remain until the ambiguity of the definition of made for kids is cleared up, we just can't take the risk. A crazy big fine like that would absolutely ruin our lives. On a similar note, we also don't want our channel to essentially die, and not being able to interact with our viewers is just something we don't see the point of. Consequently, as a team, we have decided that right now, with the current restrictions which come with marking your channel/content as for kids, all options remain on the table, including withdrawing from the platform, although this really is, and I do want to stress this really is something that we don't want to do and something we don't feel like we necessarily will have to do. On a personal level, even considering we are a channel of below 2,000 subscribers, because of everything we have invested in this, and me personally, I have put so much into this, this is an incredibly difficult and stressful situation, particularly considering that it's supposed to be a hobby. I really, really, really do feel for anybody, and I also offer my support to anybody who relies on the platform to make a living, because this is difficult. Now what we want to do until the end of the year is continue uploading as we are now, and hopefully we'll continue to do that in the new year, and I'm pretty sure that this will get sorted out, that we will. What we really need now from the FTC is to clear up the vagueness and the grey area as what is made for kids and what isn't. We don't want to take a risk, but if they deem our content is made for kids, then we need to think about what steps to take next, both as creators and as a platform. As a final point, I mentioned at the start of this video, please do follow the links in the description, and if you want to share your concerns about the situation, you can still leave the FTC comments on the legislation by following the links below, and there's also a petition to sign. If you could do those two things, you would be helping out massively and you could really make an impact. The comments especially could make a huge difference. Please also spread this video with content creators you believe this could affect, because we need to raise awareness. There's not enough being talked about and this could really be disastrous. So please do go ahead and share this to help get the message out there. Thank you so much for supporting us over the last few years, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope we have so many more to come, and I hope to see you in another one very soon.